Yo, we talking about groceries on FBA. Yo, easy. Yeah. J to the O, the Mayos. Groceries on FBA. What you know about that? Step your game up, suck it.
Okay, looks like we're recording, so we're gonna go ahead and get started right on time tonight for a change. What I'm going to be showing tonight is Forecastly. It is a inventory predictive analytic tool. Helps you prevent stockouts, gives you some information and intelligence based on your inventory, your inbound shipments, that type of thing. So let me go ahead and share my screen out, and I will get right to it here. Okay, so hopefully you can all see the screen. If you can't, let me know. Let's see here. Okay, so it should have refreshed. You should be able to see my screen again. If you can't, just go ahead and post it in the chat or let me know. So this is the main screen. When you enter Forecastly, it's their dashboard essentially. It's meant to kind of just give you a real quick snapshot of where you're at, you know, in your inventory and your stocking and that type of thing. It shows this week's restocks. These are the items that have posted an alert to restock this week. So the week starting 11/15. So, or the restocks they're due this week. I'm sorry. So, you know, showing 248 products, 3,800 units for me that need to be restocked. Let me pull up the chat here just in case someone has some questions. Okay, there we go. Okay, upcoming cash flow. Forecastly, unlike Restock Pro, which is the last product that we looked at, does this type of thing. Forecastly works on the premise that it's really, the guy that built it, I believe, is chiefly a private label seller. And the way he does his shipments is he orders it from a supplier and it ships straight to Amazon. So he will go on the Seller Central and build the shipment in there first and then send his supplier, you know, the shipping labels, mailing labels, and they will ship it straight to Amazon. So as a result, he builds his shipments in Amazon before he actually gets the goods, unlike, you know, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesalers, which will typically get items in their possession first, and then they'll scan the list and build their shipment once they have it in their possession, and then they will ship it to Amazon. So as a result, this upcoming cash flow, this would be super useful if you were following that approach, because then it will show you based on your shipments from your suppliers and the estimated profit, you know, what your cash flow would be. But since I, like the majority of you, I'm sure, build my shipments once I have the items, that's zero because I don't have any shipments built and ready to go. Everything's already shipped in. So this isn't much use unless you follow that model. This does show the in-flight shipments. Some of them have been received, but I left them, you know, left them out there so I can kind of show you how the interface works, because it has the ability to help you track the items, make sure they were received, and to open tickets if everything wasn't received there. Sales figures, I really like the projected. They will take your sales to date for the month and try to project out where you're going to be for the month, which is really handy for me. I like that. This is a running snapshot of your inventory value by day. These numbers are a little bit off because I haven't populated the cost for all the items in here yet. I'm still using this and Restock Pro, kind of trying to see the differences between the two, so it's not fully populated. But then it also shows like your rolling historical 30-day, 60-day sales, your average daily revenue. You can see, at least myself, I've seen the uptick in fourth quarter already. My daily revenue in October was, for the past 60 days, which is September 18th through November 18th, was $494. Past 30 days, it's up almost $100 a day. So days a week, it shows you when your busiest days are for your items. That's not really useful for me because I sell anything I get my hands on. But if you have a specific product set or you kind of understand your buyers more, this may make more sense. Inventory stats shows you, what your current inventory is, if it all sells, what your profit would be. And again, my numbers are off. Excess inventory, we'll get into that a little bit more on one of the other screens, but it shows you based on your sell rate, how much excess inventory you have. In other words, you set how many days you would like your inventory to sell. And so this calculates, it says, okay, well, you got 87, more units than you will need for your next 45 days. It costs you this much extra money, and then you're going to pay this much extra in storage fees as a result of that. So the $97 storage fees. Shows you your best sellers, and I'll pop this up in detail in a second and show you. And then inventory aging. This is the cost of the inventory based on age. So of the stuff I've entered cost for, I've got 3,400 that's less than 90 days, 1,600 that's over the 90-day mark, 28,270, that type of thing. Most of my inventory turns over within 45 to 60 days, so my numbers are low, but this is would be really handy when we're coming up on long-term storage to kind of see, where you're set inventory-wise. And excess inventory was very insightful for me to kind of see what it's costing me to have my my dead inventory hanging around. It kind of gives you an appreciation for why retail stores will have clearance sales, because they know the cost per inch of square or foot or inch of shelf space. So it's a certain point where it makes sense for them to just liquidate it even at a loss to capture that. This is handy. This is kind of like your own camel. So for like one of my top sellers, you can pull up the screen. There's a link to the ASIN, which will take you right to the Amazon page. Shows you your 30-day revenue, orders, and number of units, and then it shows like some interesting graphs. This is the reserved inventory. So how many units that I've had reserved. Now this is spiked here because that's when it checked in. So I had 144 reserved. Then you started seeing them check in as fulfillable, and then they went to reserved for sales purposes. And then you can see the fulfillable drop and then the reserved, and as they all shipped out, they kind of plummeted here. Shows the sales rank, the fluctuation. So if you're the only seller of a product, you can see what impact you have on sales rank when you're in stock, or just in general, it shows you sales rank. If you're sharing the buy box, it shows the buy box price, which this is a product that the manufacturer strictly enforces MAP. So I'm sure somebody got a warning letter for this little dip here, but that never changes. But otherwise, you can kind of see the rolling 30-day price. And flags, this is interesting. So if you have a replenishable item and you're kind of closing in on figuring out how to stock it or when you need to be in stock or what's going on, you can make notes here. So I would say, let's see. For instance, I'll just say on this spike, I'll make up something. I'll say October 24th. I'll put on that date. I'll say noticed that Acme ink was out of stock. So you can add a little annotation to the sales history, and it will show up as a flag that you can hover over. So when you're looking at your 30-day and trying to figure out, how your sales are doing and what's affecting it, you can make little notes for yourself. So you can say, oh, hey, this spiked up here. What happened? Oh, yeah, Acme went out of stock that day, so that's why I saw the spike. So it's kind of a rolling 30-day history by SKU that you can refer to. So let me get into some of the basic setups. It's going to look the same as Restock Pro for the most part. Excuse me. Under settings, you put your credentials, of course. You can have. I think they support 4 the Amazon marketplaces so far, but that's it. Nothing for eBay or anything. This is your default sales history. So you tell it how many days you for sales history do you want them to look at to do the predictions for how much you need to restock? I go with the maximum because I don't do a lot of seasonal things. So I want to see kind of long-term trending and averages. Um, the reorder frequency. So this is what this is saying is basically is how many days do you want to how many days of stock do you want to order at a time or to keep in stock at Amazon. So if you order every 90 days, you set this to 90 days, it will make sure that you have enough stock to make it through the 90 days to your next reorder period. So these are numbers you can tweak. Again, this guy is primarily a private label person, I think, because he's got the provision to exclude promo orders. So if you're doing like promos on private label to get reviews, then you can exclude those so it doesn't skew your forecasting. If you do multi-channel fulfillment, which I do, you can ignore the non-Amazon orders. So if you do a lot of eBay sales through MCF, you can ignore those so it doesn't throw off your stock levels. This feature is not integrated or not developed yet. They're not sure if they're going to do it or not, but it was they were looking to integrate with AppEagle via API to pull in like cost information and stats from there. And then just the plan basically. They're currently in beta. It's $49.98 is their starter plan, which I think is up to a couple thousand units, somewhere around there. So once they come out of beta, I'm sure that price is going to go up, but it's currently where they're at. So let's look at inventory. If you go to inventory settings, all inventory, this is where you would do your cost information. So you can export it and do it via CSV, or you can do it right here individually. A lot of I code my SKUs to be, whatever, to be significant to me, basically. So I can tell by looking at a SKU if it's something that I want to keep track of or not. So all these randomly sequential SKUs are one and done, as I call them. So I won't be carrying those anymore. But it has a little legend here for your SKUs. So if it's marked as ignored, let me go to the screen first, and that'll make more sense. You can mark these as ignored, which means it won't pay attention to sales. It won't do forecasts for reorders. It will just, like it says, ignore it. So if you see the little I over here, that means it's an ignored product. But for the rest of the products, you have, first of all, you have a link that will take you to that actual product. You put in your cost, which is just your basic cost or an average cost if your cost changes. Your inbound cost, that's the cost to ship it. If you want to include shipping costs, you can also put in your packaging costs and prep costs there if you'd like. Case quantity, if you do wholesale or even private label, sometimes there's a minimum order quantity or a minimum case quantity. You can put that in there and it will do the math to round up. This was interesting. Restock Pro has quite a few variables that you can tinker with to kind of tweak the forecasting algorithm, which I was actually reading an interesting article on Repricers, just a little sidebar, where there's several companies that are coming out with just canned selections for the repricer settings. So what they're saying is basically that when there's too many settings in Repricer, it forces the work on the seller so that they have to understand algorithms and the logistics and statistics and all the calculations that go into the repricing, which isn't something that really you want to worry about as a seller. So several companies, including I think Feedvisor, who wrote the article, they're saying, hey, we've got a couple PhDs on staff. They major in statistics. They do the algorithms. They worry about the data science. We collect all the data from all the sellers. So we understand that part of the business. So you don't have to worry about that. We'll handle that. So they just give you a couple of choices, like, do you want to move product or do you want to maximize profit? And they worry about the rest. This is kind of a similar approach. Rather than allowing you to tweak how you weight your sales by period and by time frame and all these other settings, they basically give you service levels. So your service level is, if you want to be very safe, so 1% chance of a stock out, you go with that level. Safe is 5% and not as safe as 10%. So if you're private label, one of the last things you want to do is run out of stock, because then you start dropping down the search results because you're out of stock. People go to check for the product, it's not there, they buy something else. It's definitely a bad thing for you. So for private label people, obviously you want to be very safe. For profitable, high competition items, even if it's RA or OA, you probably want to be very safe as well, because if you're making 200% ROI on the product, you don't want to run out of that until, you know, the listing goes south or the price bottoms out. Safe is the default. If you don't set anything, that's what it assumes. And not as safe if it's something that's a real slow seller or sporadic, or, you know, for whatever reason you're just not as concerned with keeping in stock, or if you're limited on funds and you can't buy everything that you need to restock, then you can set the least profitable things as not as safe. So basically, they do all the thought process and the you know, the science and details, but behind the algorithms, you just pick where you want to be. Lead time, this is very important because this goes into the calculation. So if it's something you can run down to Walmart, and lead time, by their definition, is the time it takes you to get, not only get the item, but get it into Amazon and checked in. So they want this to be the full time. So obviously you can't control that completely, but you know, you just kind of pick a running estimate of how long it takes when you ship a replen or this specific replen to get to Amazon and get checked in. Because based on this number, this is how they calculate how much you need to order to keep in stock. This will be different for each supplier. I think I generally set it for at least, I want to say, I think I went with 7 days, even for the items that I can run out to Walmart, for instance, right now and grab. I'll still set the 7 days because by the time I list it, sticker it, ship it, and Amazon receives it, checks it in, it's at least 7 days. Brand, they're building in some functionality to show you brand reporting, and again, it's more private label because if you're OA or RA, you probably don't care. But you can select a specific brand that your item is, and you know, the category is that basically. Supplier is obviously very important because you want to be able to select by supplier, you know, what you're going to reorder essentially. So those are all the settings for the for each item. It's got a hot link to the actual listing, and now you can see what each of these icons are. So it's marked as ignored. There's no cost data included for this item, no inbound shipping costs, no lead time. So obviously you want nothing in this column for the items that you really care about. And it does have filters, so you can see just the ignored ones, or just the ones without cost, or just the ones with no service level, that type of thing. And then a search thing. So, you know, if you want to search for your, you know, the poopery stuff that I sell or whatever, you could type it here. Fba Inventory, of course, shows all the inventory that it knows about that you have actually in at Amazon in Fba. So that's just a different view, basically, so you can see what's actually there. You know, your fulfillable quantity, reserved, unsellable, that type of thing, etc. You can also see sales graphs at this level as well. So you can click on this button, you can see the same thing. This is an old book I've had there forever. I've only got one. It's been there for probably 2 years and hasn't sold. So pretty dismal there. And you can tell by the sales rank. Looks like somebody sold one November 9th. But then it's climbing right back up to nobody selling it. So, but anyway, the same as we saw on the other screen, you can make flags, make notes, that type of thing at this level as well. And again, there's filters, same filters are built in there. So that's how you update your inventory with specific costs. The great thing about doing that is it will then give you a valuation screen. So you can click on current, and again, as you can see from my last screen, I don't have everything updated. But once you do, if you check your current valuation, it will show you your current costs, your estimated profit, the total price of all items you have there, the fulfillable cost, the cost of the items that are reserved, and the cost of items that are unfulfillable. So it's a good way to go get a real good snapshot of you know, what your current inventory is, and also there's a month end, so it will show you the value of your inventory at the end of a specific month. And let's see if I've had enough data. I started using it mid-October, but yeah, there we go. So it'll show you the total cost, that type of thing. So when you do your taxes, if you're using this, that'd be immensely helpful to go select, you know, December and see what your, excuse me, what your inventory value was at the end of the year. You can also do it by obviously supplier or brand, so you can go get a look at what your inventory is worth at that current moment. Suppliers, same basic stuff. You just, you know, you put in the name and address or whatever information you want, just basic information for suppliers. And then purchase orders, again, this is the way they do purchase orders is weird. It's set up just for, you know, his private label model where the way the process works is you go build your shipment in Amazon. Then once the shipment's built, it will show up and you can generate a purchase order from that built shipment. So I don't do them that way. So obviously this isn't much help for me, but if you do structure your resupplies that way, then you can go do purchase orders from here as well. Let me I'll go ahead and show you the analysis here first. Inventory age, we saw a little bit of that on the dashboard. This shows you, again, all your inventory with basic age and the storage fees. These are books and VHSs, so storage fee is basically nothing. The cost that it's going to cost you when you're at each one of these you know, these ages basically. So you can let me scroll down to something that has some value. Okay, so this, if I, based on my current storage rate, my storage cost to keep it from the 90 to 180 days let's see, let me back up. My storage cost at Amazon for these items at my current sell rate will cost me $357 at the 90 to 180 day age. For long-term storage fees, this is what's projecting for 6 months. There's nothing currently going to hit 12-month long-term storage fees. So as it currently stands, the inventory I have there, if it doesn't sell by the next long-term storage fee period, that's what will cost me in long-term storage fees. It shows you the number that you have that is in the 90 to 100 days. I'm sorry, I completely screwed the cost up. I thought that sounded wrong until I looked at my notes. There's 34 of these items that are between 90 and 180 days old. So I've sent in this item, there's 34 units. And based on the cost that I entered for that unit, this is what the inventory cost me that's been sitting there for 90 to 180 days. So to try to make that unconfusing, essentially it's saying that because I overbought that item, I have $357 of my money that's been tied up for between 90 and 180 days because it hasn't sold. So this is a report that you go in and you would sort on, you know, the 90 to 180 or 180 to 270, see how much money you have tied up, and then that's when you make a decision to liquidate some of that stuff out. Here's another one that was a speculation buy, and I have 2 of those, and I paid about $78 a piece for them. So there's $159 that I haven't had access to for 90 to 180 days. And this shows you total. So I've got over $1,000 tied up in inventory cost for items that haven't sold that are between the 90 and 180 day mark. I've got $600 between 180 and 270, and then $28 that are, you know, greater than 270 but less than 365. So not horrible, but that's something that, you know, if your cash flow is dipping and you know you don't know why you don't have enough money, this is a good place to come check. These top 2 are, like I said, very strictly enforced maps, so there's not much I can do about that other than let it just sell out or pull some back. But this is where if you're doing deep stocking and you're stocking a lot of one item, this is where a restock tool comes in handy, is because it will help prevent you from having money tied up for long-term storage, long-term inventory rather. Excess inventory, this shows you that based on your current sales rate, how much extra you have or how far you over ordered essentially. And some of these, like if you have some that haven't ever sold, it's going to be kind of thrown off. But like these top, I know these sell pretty well. I've got 5 sellable. There hasn't been any sales on these in quite a while. So I'm sorry, these sell very well in the season. They're a seasonal product. I got 5 sellable. I've been using this since October, so it's saying, hey, we haven't seen any of these 5 sell really since, you know, October 1st. Here's what they cost you. Here's what the fees from that are costing you as far as inventory storage. You have, you know, over a year supply, and here's what's sold in the past 7 days, 30 days, 90 days. Alerts, whether or not it's low traffic or low conversion. So are you just not getting much traffic to your listing, or are you just not converting and selling? Typically low traffic in general is a keyword issue or description of their picture issue. Low conversion could be a picture issue or price issue, just in general. And then it's showing you your price, your buy box price. So these are all. This is the candles. These soy candles. It's a super competitive market. Got to spend a lot of ad money to get on the first few pages. So this low traffic is just a competition issue. This one, the low conversion. Yeah, I'm 3. I used to be about $12 above the buy box price. This is creeping up. This is a Star Wars item, so I'm not going to lower that. I'm just going to set on it until the people underneath me sell out, and then mine eventually sells. Same here. There's about a $10 gap here. So you can go out and look and see, okay, what am I overstocked on and why? And this will kind of give you an idea of, what you're sitting on that you need to get rid of. And again, the more you use this and use it accurately, this number should go down. Forecast. This is where the bread and butter is. Let me go ahead and pick one of my suppliers here. Poopery, which is one I've talked about before. It's a hazmat item, so you guys, I don't have to worry about you sniping my products, basically. But I picked a supplier. You can change the sales history here if you don't like the default. And your order frequency, like if you can order more frequently, or if you want to order a little bit less often, you can change this. Or you can just click this, and this will be just the items that are due to order this week. DUR, days until restock, is less than 7. So basically you have less than 7 days to restock. They work off of, here's days of inventory, and then days of inventory with inbound, which counts your inbound systems shipments, basically. Days until reorder. Basically, they take in your lead time with your supplier and how much you want to keep in stock, and it will tell you how many days you have to reorder. So it gives you like a grace window. So like this one, I have 27 days past when I should reorder, basically. This one, I've got, it's 138 days. It's way out of whack because this one I don't think has sold in a while. So the number's out of whack. But essentially, if you want to do a reorder, you come in and select the supplier. You select the to buy column, and it will show you how many you need to buy. So this one is saying I need to buy 385 of these. I should have ordered 27 days ago. This one I actually have en route. So I'm not sleeping at the wheel here. This is, there's no way, and I've been talking with the developer. They currently don't have a way to mark something as, hey, I've already ordered it, or hey, I've already got it, ready to ship, because they're assuming that you're building the orders in Seller Central. So I'm working with him to be able to have some type of way to say, okay, I ordered 300 of these. And they'll be on the way soon or whatever, so you don't keep seeing the alert. But it shows you the sales for the particular historical period you choose. I think that may be a static. Okay, so that does change. There we go. So the sales, the rate, that's basically the rate that it...
Hey, Todd?
Yes, sir.
I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
So... the sales, is that pulling it just since you signed up for Forecastly, or is that like pulling it from Amazon?
They pull, let me think. Restock Pro, I think, pulls several months. Forecastly, I believe it's just a week or two. They did not pull a lot of historical sales. So it's from when you signed up.
But after you sign up, it's going to save all of that data.
Yes, it logs it once you sign up, as long as you remain a customer with it.
Right. Now, what about the earlier you were talking about the money that like the 90 days and up to 180 days.
Yeah.
Now, is that saving that from when you marked items like not to track? Will that not be in that number as well?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to ask that because I do not know for sure. I know the ignore.
And we are live.
What?
I know the ignore factors it out for reorders, but I do not know about the inventory age. I will ask that and post a follow up. Okay. That's a good question. I never thought about that. So let's see. So yeah, so when you do an order, you go back, click on to buy. It shows the rate that it's selling, the amount you currently have in inventory, how many are reserved, your days of inventory, that type of thing. It shows you the current buy box, your current price, and then your current cost, along with the inbound cost you've entered. So these items I've actually entered the cost for, several of these anyway. It'll show you the net profit, and it factors in your inbound costs if you include it, as well as all the Amazon fees, your ROI, and then the 15-day COSO is the cost of stock out. So if you're out of stock for 15 days, that's what it will cost you in profit. So that's a real good way to say, you know, if you don't have enough money to order 385 of these, you can say, okay, well, and you know, if you sort by to buy, it's kind of self-evident usually, but you can say, okay, well, it cost me $512 if I don't order these. But if I skip these, it's only going to cost me $68. So I'm going to dump everything I have into here first. So this is based on your current sales rate, or your sales rate for the sales history, plus the current price and your current cost is what the cost of stock out shows you. So unlike Restock Pro, again, there is no mechanism for clicking these and saying I'm going to order this many and creating a PO, because the software is not designed that way. So you pretty much just have to order and make a note, ignore these you know, values until everything gets received, and it resets it. Let me show you inbound first. Inbound is cool. I use this to keep track of shipments. If you have all your cost information, it will show your total cost for the shipment. It will show you the outstanding cost, which that is the outstanding cost. That's basically the items that Amazon has not checked in or cannot find, basically. It will show you the total profit for the shipment based on what's sold. And then there's an actions, and this will take you straight to the shipment in Amazon if you click on shipment ID. But there's an actions that you can click on that will take you and allow you to make notes. So this is where, again, you can you know, create a PO from here if you wanted to. You can also, and this is what I use it for, you can click edit, and you can go in and select an internal status. So again, ignoring some of these because it's the way that this process is built, but you can do PO sent, in transit, receiving, etc. But I use it for this. You can note if you have a case open, if you have a credit pending, like if Amazon said, hey, yeah, you're right, we can't find this, we'll issue you a credit for X dollars, then you can note that. So you can say credit pending, put the case ID, any notes, any tracking numbers, you know, you can include your shipping costs, and then you can go back and follow up on it. So when you cancel, go back. So when you go in here, you can look at your shipments, click on open shipments, and see, okay, was there something in here, like if internal status was credit issued or something like that, you can check and follow up on that status and make sure that you actually got your credit. You can also check where it shows outstanding cost. You can click on that and see what you're actually missing a cost on. And this is, yep. So I only received 2 of these. It's arbitrary cost. This is an item I'm selling kind of on consignment, but it's showing that basically, hey, you're missing one of these, and you need to do something about it. So if you could go in and open your case, make the notes, the case ID, and then follow up on it. So it's a real good way to look and keep tabs on your shipments. The other nice thing is once they're closed and there's nothing missing, so there's no outstanding costs, such as this one and this one, you can go in and set the status to closed, and then they roll off that screen. So you can always just keep tabs of the shipments rather than looking in Amazon at, you know, screens and screens of shipments, and some of them say closed or working or canceled or whatever. They're just all over the place. You can keep your own list of shipments here and follow up on them accordingly. You can also go see all shipments, so that's all the ones that you marked closed, as well as what's actually still in progress. And it shows the Amazon status, and as you can see, I don't know if I saved any here. Yeah, like here, Amazon's marked this closed, but there's $2 of outstanding cost. So they may think it's closed, but it's not closed from my standpoint because, you know, they need to either find those items or reimburse me for them. So that's where you can use this to track. Analytics. This just shows you basically everything before showed you down at the product level, kind of what your sales were. This shows you at a high level, what your history was by supplier, what who your top sellers were basically for each one, who made up what sales essentially, and it put it on the graph for you, a chart, so you can kind of see, who your biggest suppliers are, who's bringing you in the most money, if you're trying to figure out where to spend money or where to focus on for restock. Month to dates, same type of items. It's just for the current month, basically. So revenue, current month, previous month. Estimated is where they take your current run rate and basically project it out for the rest of the month. And then drill down is where they show you a pie chart with all your sellers, and you can just click and drill down and see, okay, for that supplier, what was my top seller? So you can say, okay, let's click on this one. Oh, you can't drill down, sorry. So it shows you top supplier just down to the SKU level, apparently. And you can choose which month you want to see. But, if you're doing replens, it's a good way to kind of narrow down. If you have limited funds, you can narrow down to the most profitable. Or if you, if you only want to stay with one supplier or want to really leverage one supplier, you can see what the most profitable items for that supplier is and kind of focus from there. This is a deceiving little button. It looks like it would open a menu, but all it does is collapse the menu, so you have more screen real estate. And then they link you to the, really the three biggest pages that most sellers use. The forecast, which shows you what you need to order. Open shipments, which shows you the stuff that's in flight, and then your inventory valuation. And that's about it. They have a limited amount of articles and FAQs built in here. Some of the pages have a guided tour. I think their forecast screen had like a guided walkthrough. And then you can open a ticket right from here, which is kind of nice. I've done that several times. I've got one open for a whole bunch of product suggestions. And then, you can see all your previous tickets. I've had very fast response from tickets. I don't think I've waited more than 24 hours for an answer to any of them so far. So they're very, very motivated. This was actually written by a guy named Jeremy. His last name escapes me, but he's a fairly large volume Amazon seller, mainly private label, and he was formerly a Restock Pro customer up until about 8-10 months ago, and he got frustrated because it wasn't really doing what he wanted, and he had some problems with some of the analytics, so he went out and wrote his own and hired some developers and is kind of developing his own. And obviously from seeing this, I don't do private label, and there's some things that are kind of awkward for me because I don't follow his workflow, so I can see how Restock Pro would have been kind of awkward for him if he's trying to do that workflow. But this is alternative to Restock Pro, much better interface, a lot easier to use interface standpoint, a lot less dials and knobs to turn. But you lose some functionality in the PO section. Two quick things that Restock Pro does handle that Forecastly does not yet, and they're considering it, but they don't have it yet. One is local inventory. So if you're someone like Dean Kagan, who was on the Restock Pro webinar, who has local inventory warehouse that they selectively ship and sometimes merchant fulfilled, this will not track your local inventory. So Restock Pro gives you the ability to say, okay, go pick these 50 items from aisle 4, rack 7, and then order 60 more. This one just says, hey, here's how many you need. So you want to have that functionality. It also doesn't do kiting or bundles or whatever you want to call it. We're basically, like this is a 3-piece set. The manufacturer doesn't sell that 3-piece set. They sell 3 individual items, and I make a 3-piece set out of. So Restock Pro, you can build that kit and tell it, okay, when I need more of this, I really need more of these 3 things, and it will account for your local inventory for those 3 things and do the correct numbers and codes on the PO. This, you just need to do all that on your own. So a couple missing pieces on that. But otherwise, in all fairness, I've gotten what I believe are more accurate numbers from Forecastly for my restocking. Like I said, I'm still using Restock Pro at the time being, but the numbers are much more accurate in Forecastly. I've been using those for my past few reorders, and they've been much, much closer to accurate sales volume. So I think they definitely win on the accuracy standpoint, but are missing some functionality. So I know that was a giant word explosion. So if anybody has any questions or wants to see anything functionality-wise or wants me to repeat anything, feel free to speak now. And I don't see any questions in the chat. Do you have any questions, Sean? Or
I think I already maybe asked them.
Yep. I'll follow up on the one you asked me.
Hang on.
Yep.
I was muted. What? So, did you already answer this question from Jimmy?
Oh, I just now saw it. Okay. Restock Pro is $39.99, I believe. I should know that by now. Let me go check before I tell you wrong. I will go to my account so you can see. Forecastly during their beta is, I believe, $49.99.
It is
$49.98. Yep. Restock Pro. Let's sign in here real quick, just so I give you the exact answer. I'm pretty sure they're $39.99, but I will make sure of that before. There we go.
Yeah, she's in bed.
$39.99. Yep.
Huh?
So Forecastly's roughly $10 more a month. So, yep. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat.
Right. So you're not using both of these, are you?
I am currently, yes, because I wasn't sure. Forecastly approached me about the beta, and so I gave it a shot, but I wanted something to compare the numbers to. So I've been using both of them for the past month, but I'm going to end up dropping one probably the end of this month.
All right, awesome. So Forecastly is overall better, right? I'm assuming you're planning on switching to this one. So what do you keep, Forecastly?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Restock Pro, I was torn because for a while I was convinced that keeping local inventory was going to be a better play because I was looking at other marketplaces, but you know, I've been talking to a lot of sellers this week, and I just don't think, for what I sell, I don't think the play is there for Jet or eBay, you know, to really do any serious amounts of volume. And the multi-channel fees eat up your profit, especially Jet, because they're very cost conscious. That's how they're competing against Amazon. So there's just no room in there for me to add my MCF fee. So I'd have to merchant fulfill it, and there's just, the volume's not there. So since I'm not keeping local inventory, that was really the only holdup with Restock Pro. So, but for my products anyway, and the amount of volume I do, and my sales patterns, Forecastly has been, you know, within 10% of right on the money for the sales predictions. So they're much more accurate. And Jimmy posted, I think Forecastly is better with a caveat. I think if you don't have a significant amount of local inventory, then Forecastly is definitely the way to go. But I think if you have enough local inventory that you can't keep track of it easily, then I think Restock Pro is definitely the way to go, because the functionality of tracking, you know, your aisles and shelves and, you know, warehouse management outweighs the inaccuracies on the numbers. So yeah, I will be dropping Restock Pro for sure.
Yeah, I think it looks a lot better. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, be using one of these myself, but you know, I like it a lot better.
Yeah, it's much more pleasant on the eyes. That's for sure.
And I think it does a lot more stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the inventory age was a big eye-opener for me. I had a lot of price changes about a month after I started using this because I hadn't realized how much money I had tied up in just stagnant product that wasn't going to be a Christmas item. So I unloaded a bunch of that and freed that money up to buy some profitable things. So I'm now with this, I'm literally at the point where I spend every penny I have to restock, the profitable items. And you can see right here, I mean, for my current restocks, $24,383 my cost is what's required to restock everything I have listed there. So that's beyond my monthly spend. So I just whittle at that as best I can and just ignore my $51.95 potential lost profit.
Right, but that's to restock it to sell every how often?
I do a 30-day restock, I believe. 45-day restock. So it would cost me $24,000 to have 45 days worth of everything profitable that I have at Amazon right now, because it ignores the stuff that you lose money on. It doesn't even tell you to restock that. So that's all profitable stuff.
Okay, so here's a good question. Is there a way to do it so you could restock every 14 days since you get paid every 14 days?
The lowest that they will let
still be able to do it, far enough in advance.
Yeah, I think the lowest number they'll let you do for restock is 30. So you couldn't dial it down less than 30, I don't think. I mean, you probably could order half of that and do it every 15 days. But the way it's built currently, it's down to 30.
Right, because the problem is it's going to take you 14 days.
Yeah.
To stock it anyway. You got to order it, get it, prep it, and then ship it, and have time for it to get there.
And that's why I set mine to 45 days, because Hazmat ships UPS ground. So I've got usually takes 3 or 4 days longer than the Amazon shipments to get there. So, but it's done what it's supposed to do. I've dumped every penny I've had into the restock recommendations and have not had a single stinker. And that, granted, it's Q4. You have to take that with a grain of salt. But most of my stuff, my sales volume is not drastically different in Q4 from the other quarters. So I don't really see huge seasonal spikes. So I'm not as influenced by the sales volume there. So I expect this to be accurate pretty much year round for me. If you're doing and Jimmy asked about the integrated App Eagle feature. I spoke to Jeremy about this. This you currently cannot enable. You can enable, but they say it doesn't work. Currently, it's not supported. So I have not tried it because I don't use App Eagle for repricing. When I talked to Jeremy, he says he's not sure. It didn't really work as well as they thought it was, so they don't know if they're going to continue that. But it was basically FTPing your file with your costs to and from App Eagle. Or from App Eagle, so that they could update your costs for you. You just update App Eagle. It looks like you could turn it on. You can give it a shot. I do not know if they're going to drop it soon or what the deal is on it, but he wasn't real excited about that feature for whatever reason. I did tell him that I think that type of feature would be imperative for anybody, really, because all sellers are sick of entering. If you use, I use Inventory Lab, a repricer, and a restocker. So that's 3 times I have to enter the cost over and over and over for an item. So, it's just these products are ripe for sharing some data so that we don't have to do the redundant entry. And especially a product like this, all it needs is cost and suppliers. So that should be easily obtainable from, either Inventory Lab / ScanPower or, some other source. Bless you.
Thanks.
And yeah, this is a great concept. What's frustrating, and I told Jeremy, is it's such a simplistic, the forecast, that's rocket science, trying to calculate how many you're going to need. That's hard math. Updating cost from another file that has cost in it and the field is labeled cost is not rocket science to me. That's just basic file import. So it's frustrating that none of these vendors have done it yet, either using a common format or just accepting other people's formats, because everybody does the same exact thing. They all dump out CSVs. They all have, SKU, ASIN, cost, at a minimum, they all have that. So And I do it in Excel all the time. I'll dump it from one product. I'll do a VLOOKUP on the spreadsheet to dump the cost into the template and upload it. So, it's very straightforward and it doesn't really change. No one calls ASIN anything but ASIN. No one calls SKU anything but SKU, and no one calls cost anything but cost. So they're universal terms. But they haven't done it yet. So, but yeah, so that's Forecastly. Again, if you do a lot of replenishables or wanting to get into wholesale or anything like that, this is an incredible resource, because then I focus on the repricer and finding new product. And so it's like a machine. Once I find a new product and there's profit in it, then I go ahead and order a small quantity to test it. I set the repricer up for the minimum that I'm willing to make on it, and then the maximum, and then I forget about it completely. And I let the restock application drive what I purchase from there. So it's just like a machine. You put stuff in, and you go from.
There's never enough.
Just based on data.
Enough, then you did something wrong. Right. If nobody has nothing to say, something's wrong.
Okay.
So that's it.
That's it. Okay, I'm done. Okay.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, or if you guys want to talk about anything else.
Yeah. So it's not just for wholesale. If you have, if you're doing a lot of groceries or replenishables or any of that, it's going to tell you what to. Can you make a list somehow through this of the items to buy, or how? I don't know if I missed that part. But, how? Okay, you see all this, but how do you know actually what to buy? Or you just have to look at this and say.
I do dual monitors, but you can certainly download a CSV of whatever you want. It'll have all these fields in it. So if you want to just take a list and massage it from there, you could certainly do that. So pull this up, I'll show you what it looks like.
So even if you're doing grocery, or beauty or health or, anything that's a replenishable, even toys.
Yep.
You can take this and make this a list of the items that you want to go buy, and basically, have a shopping list.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So even send somebody else to get those items while you're working on sourcing new things. So, it doesn't always have to be just for wholesale.
Yep, and it has cost in here, and it has SKU and everything else you need. It shows sales rank and profit, so you can take that to store. And I do have Walmart and Target set up as supplier in here. I do most of it online, but you could certainly print out the list and go do shopping in the store with it for sure. One other thing it shows too that is interesting for me anyway is it shows the percent change from the last 30 days average. So like this one is down 14.2%. This one's up 100%. This is up 142%. So it shows you on your best sellers what's how they've changed over the past 30 days.
So if it says 100, what is that? It's still the same?
100 is that 100% of the change means it is equal to the same sales last 30 days. I think. Let me think about that. Let me see. Days, 59. I don't know. Let me ask him that too.
Okay, so these graphs, they're always going to be going down, basically, right? Because it's your inventory that you're selling off. Back it again.
Like this one?
Yeah.
So
it's
unless you're continuously replenishing, yes.
Right, the bars.
Right.
So all this in the beginning, you didn't sell any of them.
This one, I know for a fact, this is one that Amazon does the buy box on this one weird. It's like once one seller has a buy box, which is usually Woof Woof, which is my arch nemesis. Once they have the buy box, no one else gets the buy box until they sell out. At least been my observation. because I've noticed every time I have the buy box, they're out, and every time I still have the buy box when they're back in stock, but I'm still getting the same number of sales. As you can see, everybody's jacking it up for Christmas. But this one, I was actually in stock. Let's see, October 26th, and had basically no sales until they just flipped on the buy box for me, and then that's when I started just selling out of it, basically. Let me see if it shows a total. Yeah, I had 72 in stock, and 71, 68, 66, 50, 40. So I sold those 72, and well, it looks like they're rotating in on that one. Yeah, there's no way to tell actually who else had the buy box unless you were looking on it that day, I guess. But yeah, in theory, these should always be going down. I mean, if it was perfect and you had the unlimited budget for restocking, you should really see fulfillable inventory stay fairly flat. I mean, it should drop down, then go back up like that, and then drop down, go back up like that, as you're restocking.
We use Be Cool now. We've switched from App Eagle. I think they're just way too expensive for what they're providing.
Yeah.
So Todd and I are both using Be Cool, and a lot of other people are as well.
Yep. And I have noticed that it appears that Amazon is tweaking the buy box again, at least anecdotally for me, and talking to some other sellers, where prior to about a couple of weeks ago, you had to be under the buy box or matching the price to get the buy box. But I've since bumped mine back up to being 1% over, and I've lost very low buy box rotation. So with Be Cool, I'm seeing about 12 to 14% buy box ownership right now, which is actually up for me. So I think it's doing a decent job.
Right. Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of strange things. Like we're hearing that people aren't getting, they're not giving anybody the buy box now. Have you noticed this?
I haven't seen it on mine, but I've heard several people talk about it.
I mean, they've always done that, but now people aren't getting the buy box. Nobody's getting the buy box at all if they're significantly over the retail price.
Yeah, so they're just all showing up down here as other sellers and not in the buy box. So
it'll be a list of sellers, that yellow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not on this one, but it's just, yeah. It doesn't list the seller names. It just lists, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, and nobody really has the buy box. I haven't seen that on mine, at least I've seen anyway, but I don't check all my products frequently. Jimmy says that happened to him. They suppressed a few of his for that. Was that, Jimmy, where you were significantly over the retail price?
I just love when I find an item ranked 170 in groceries, but it's not going to sell till it's not going to sell after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally not worth spending at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I bought a bunch of Christmas candy on closeout last year in January, and honest to goodness, it just sold this past month. When I got a deal on it, I sent it in right away, and nobody would touch it. It was the ultimate seasonal item, so lesson learned.
Yeah, well, I sell Christmas stuff all year long. The stuff sells.
Yeah, I think some of it's
in January.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with mine, but I couldn't move it until just this past month. So, yeah, Jimmy said he's had a few of his suppressed that he was the only seller on because of price, where he was up above retail. So, I think Jet has publicly said they're going after Amazon based on price. So that's the only thing I can figure is that Amazon's sensitive to price, and they're going to make sure they don't lose people over cheaper prices on Jet.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if nobody has the buy box, it's fine. But if somebody else has the buy box, I'd rather have nobody having it than my competition having it.
That's true. That is true.
So, yeah. So what else do you want to talk about?
Merch by Amazon, that's now restricted or gated or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, it is. So the millions of people that were told to sign up and, didn't do anything like everybody does, they're now, out of luck. So now you have to apply to be invited.
Yep.
And the joke that was Amazon Local, they're discontinuing that as well.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I
just got a coupon code about 2 weeks ago saying it was available in this area.
It's the one that's like not the one for the services, the other one.
Oh,
not the Angie's List ripoff. Yeah. It's the ripoff of like Groupon.
Oh, like the Daily Deals Living Social thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're discontinuing that. Of course, all the coupons will be good and all that, but they're discontinuing that deal.
Yeah, that is interesting. So, yeah, merch closing. Let's see. Jet, I know Jet got another round of financing that they're going to use in advertising, I read, which kind of reaffirms that they're trying to dump money to attract people over. So I don't know if that's going to be a long-term market play or not.
They have plenty of money, and it's not that hard to make a website where they don't even sell anything. So,
more software packages are jumping on the bandwagon to list on Jet now. I talked to two this week, Zen Retail or something, and Channel Sale both offer Jet. But what's interesting is I was talking to Zen Retail today. Not only do you have to be approved to sell on Jet, they have to prove each SKU that you add to Jet. So when you create your listings and upload 30 items, each one of those has to be approved by the category manager. So they're reporting it can be up to 6 weeks to get a SKU approved and listed on there. So they really discourage the one and done, or the like the retail arbitrage style customer that would buy 50 in of something or 500 and then never sell it again. They're trying to eliminate that by making the extended approval.
And they don't want multi-channel fulfillment from Amazon.
Right.
You have to warehouse it yourself and ship it.
Yep.
So it's not a matter of the actual cost to do it. They don't want it done at all.
Yep, exactly. So I think I'm just sticking to my principle of not getting distracted and just maximizing Amazon.
Yeah, don't get distracted. Keep selling on Amazon.
Yep.
And forget about all the other stuff.
Yep.
It never pans out. It just takes more time, away from building your own business.
Yep.
You'll never run out of stuff to sell on Amazon.
Huh. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I need to talk to you after we're done here. So.
Okay.